It's the only reason I golf. I'm being completely honest. It's golf. Competitive golf is, in my opinion, the purest form of competition. Like, that's, without it, people don't believe me when I say this, but without tournaments, without stroke play tournaments, I wouldn't hold a membership anywhere for sure. I'd play a handful of times, probably a dozen times in a summer.
All right, welcome to part 2 of our podcast with Ryan Werre, and enjoy this week's episode.
So we'll kind of toggle here a little bit, but so you're a father now.
Yeah.
And you've entered the time of your life where like it's full on all responsibilities, right? You're a spouse, you're a full career, and golf. What kinds of things has golfer Ryan done to adjust to the new life you're in now?
It was an interesting season for sure, because we did all the pregnancy classes and the newborn classes, but like they don't tell you like what happens. Like they don't, and I'm not talking about the diapers, I'm not talking about the late nights, but like the feelings associated with having a kid. Like, my buddies would say like, yeah, you won't know until it happens. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what are you talking about? Like that didn't resonate with me until he was born. And I'm like, like there are some feelings that I've never felt before. Like, love something so much it hurts. I'm like, I never knew what that meant until I thought that was like, you pull a shot on 2 at DB and it kicks off the left hill and goes to a couple feet. But like seeing Mav being born, I was completely changed my life, all for the better. And golf it was a bit challenging because I call myself like a chronic practicer. Like I need a club in my hand every day during tournament season. I need to hit balls. I need to play a lot. I need to practice on the course a lot. And I think that's where moving forward, my game has to not be as dependent on that. And I think that's more mental than anything. But I remember last few years, especially competing a lot lately in the last 3 or 4 years, I didn't do well. Like if I didn't have a club in my hand for a day, I would like worry that I lost it or something like that. Right. So this year I've definitely just not simply had the time to practice that much, but I also don't think I should or need to practice that much too. So that was a big adjustment. And I think not being able to practice how kind of habitually leading up to tournaments like I have for the last few years, I didn't feel as comfortable in tournaments. There were some glimmers of hope this summer for sure, some good rounds, some good finishes, but just the time gets compressed, which is totally fine. Like I think I still a significant amount of time to golf. And it should be enough to compete how I want to compete. So I just got to figure that out.
And all of you guys are all fairly competition hardened, right? Like you talk about that experience at college of, you got to battle for your spot every day. And there are lots of other guys who maybe like this summer qualified for the Alberta Open. You're not competition hardened, right? Like I think I played in the Mid-Masters 2-3 years ago for the first time, and I was like, I don't know the last time I had to putt out. Okay, what am I gonna do?
If you hit out of bounds, you have to reload.
Yeah, like there are rules to this game that we don't always enforce. But that ability to access that, I'd say for your group of guys is fairly obvious from the outside that you can turn it on and find that fire, that pilot light.
It's the only reason I golf. I'm being completely honest. It's golf. Competitive golf is, in my opinion, the purest form of competition. Like that's, without it, people don't believe me when I say this, but without tournaments, without stroke play tournaments, I wouldn't hold a membership anywhere for sure. I'd play a handful of times, probably a dozen times in a summer. Some people might not believe me in that, but like if there's not a tournament coming up, like right now, I find it difficult to be like, okay, I'm going to go hit balls, like for what? And so that competition piece, and that's what I've fallen back in love with the last 4 years is that never ending kind of cycle of like prepping for something, training for something, identifying weaknesses for something, working on that weakness, keeping your strength strong, and then literally going out with a scorecard in hand and just being exposed to the world, seeing if you can execute.
So I'm going to paraphrase that for a second. You said like if there weren't stroke play events with full rules, you wouldn't hold a membership.
Correct.
And if you use that phrase in our golf group, if it were only stroke play, nobody in our group would have a membership. Like that we've talked about going in the Southeastern again. And none of us can even just get past, well, what if we took a 12 or a 19? Like, what happens if we had to actually count everything? We don't know if we could, physically get to the finish line. We would probably, even in some of our
I think, I would hope physically we could. Mentally, we might.
but we would probably,
cash in.
Well, some of our friends have walked off the course, right? Yeah, exactly. And
You
that's
hit it-
not stroke play.
If you hit it in the right trees on 6, you might never come out too. Like you might.
That's true.
Speaking of right trees, it wasn't on 6. You talked about highs and lows. So mid amateur, and I remember, like, I'm watching it on what's it called, Blue
Tea.
Blue Golf, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it, and like you are in command. I don't remember where I was, and you're in command, and then it's like it doesn't make sense. Like I'm going like it's got to be a mistake. I don't understand this. And then I went to Twitter and then I could remember because I was right before because you came back.
Yeah,
it was right before
team
you
champs.
Yeah.
Team champs.
Did we? No, that was the year after. That was the year after we played him in the team champ. That is.
And I was just feeling for you.
Yeah. It was tough. Like in an outsider that doesn't love golf, like I'm assuming if you're listening to this podcast, you have some love for golf. But that was brutal. Like that was probably the lowest point, most disappointment, failure, sadness I've probably almost ever felt. Like it was awful. And like the way it went down on social media, that was a unique experience too. Whether, obviously if I'm a reporter, I'm doing that for sure.
I hate to stop you here, but just for our listeners, because some are going to be going, what are we talking about right now? So like this is like ripping the Band-Aid off. So what's the backstory?
Can only really talk about it the last year. I've been more comfortable, but no. So 2022 mid-am, 2022 is probably I would say second year where I'm like, okay, I'm playing amateur golf at a high level, like got my game back, feels good. I'm in love with golf again. Because from 2017 to 2019 was kind of weird. COVID had, after that. And so I'm kind of in this groove of like loving to play. And obviously mid-amateur golf is where it's at. That's what I want to do. Like that's the major of the year, if you will, the Alberta Mid-Am. So we're up in High River. And I don't know the guys at the top that well. Like I kind of know them just because I played a few rounds with them, but I don't know them personally like I do now. And so I'm in the final group, playing really well. Ball's going where I want it to. Long story short, I'm standing on 18T with a 2-shot lead over Jesse Galvin, who's won it before. If you played Highwood, it is in High River. Slight dogleg left. Probably 420 par 4, bunker up the right side. Visually for my shot, it's perfect. Like I just kind of left side of the bunker, sling a 3-iron down there. It's going to chase out inside the 150s. Away we go, right? There is water kind of way left, but where I'm starting the shot, it's not even in my mind. So I'm just like, whenever I'm in the heat of competition, it's always like, you need to execute on this golf shot to the best of your ability, and you need to commit as hard as you possibly can, which for me just means like staying in the shot for as long as possible. And I just kind of leaned on it a bit, squeezed it, and I didn't turn it over, and it just kind of was going at the right bunker, which I'm like, whatever, not a big deal. That's totally fine. And I look up, and this thing's scooting forward. It's kind of dry out that summer. It scoots through the bunker onto the hill that's just past the bunker. There's kind of like a few rolling hills there. So I'm like, okay, not too worried about it. I can literally see my ball from the tee, like mission accomplished. It's in play. That's really, at the time, I thought that's all I needed to do. Get up there, and I'm like, oh gosh, it's a back left pin. And there's this pine tree kind of running up the right side of my visual, probably right. I could still see the
coming
pin.
off the.
It was calm.
No, I'm just.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I was wearing a plaid tree. No. And so ball's slightly above my feet, and it's a super bare lie. Had about 200 yards in. So I'm like, okay, if I just kind of hit this holdy 6-iron, Worst case, it's left of the green, easy chip to that kind of back left middle pin. There's a little middle spine ridge in the middle of the green, so it's kind of chipping back up the hill.
And you are playing with the guy.
Yeah, I'm playing with Jesse. Yeah.
So he's got to make birdie.
Yeah, he hit a good tee shot too, right? There is kind of a creek running up short, like, so I couldn't like chip something running up, so I had to fly it there. And am I trying to justify it? Probably. Should I have chipped it out to 100 yards? Hindsight, yeah, sure. But literally in my mind, I never saw really that pine tree as an issue. Okay. And so I hit this 6-iron and I hit it thin. And this is what a lot of people don't know, is that it actually hit the hill in front of me, took all the speed off the ball and popped straight up. And then I see it go into, I couldn't tell if it's kind of the first pine tree or the second one. Not too sure because there's a few there. And you got to think of where all the gallery is, where all the rules officials are, where all the playing competitors are. They're at my back, right? They're seeing this all happen at a perfect angle to see where the ball went into this pine tree, right? I'm like, I hit it. I'm like, this ain't good. But then I don't see it drop. I'm like, okay, this really ain't good. And they're like, it's in the tree. Like, we saw it go up into the top of that pine tree. It's in the tree for sure. So I'm like, okay. So I grab my bag. I walk up to this tree, assuming it's in the second tree because that's what I'm told, it's in this second tree. And I look up and can't see anything. Obviously, this is a seasoned pine tree. Like, it's not a small one. This thing's huge. So the rules official, I'm like, hey, like, can I try to get up there and see if I can't find it? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. You got 3 minutes. And I'm like, you guys are sure? Like, this is the tree. And so I made a judgment call at the time. I'm like, well, if I find that ball, right, I can take it unplayable. I basically take where the ball is straight to the ground, 2 club lengths. So now I'm kind of out of the tree and I have a clear shot. If it was the first pine tree, I wouldn't have done it because, you take it unplayable, there's still another tree here. So the second tree was a big aspect of this that a lot of people don't know about because I would have had a clear shot to the green. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm doing a muscle up, which I have never done in my life, up into this pine tree. And I get up into this pine tree and the rules official is like, yeah, you can disrupt the branches. So I took that as like, I can shake this tree as hard as I humanly can to see if my ball comes down because I'm trying to climb up it. I'm literally bleeding. My arms are destroyed. And so I get up. I mean, this is all you guys can look this up. You go ride Werre Golf. It's pretty much the top hit there, but it's all on video.
Till tonight's podcast.
Yeah, that's right. And so I'm shaking this tree, whatever. It's all on video. Long story short, ball never comes down. And the biggest regret, or the biggest, I would say, misjudging aspect of this whole thing, miscalculation, if you will, is that I had to go back and re-hit that shot, which it wasn't that tough of a shot. But I remember I put my bag down, I grabbed my 6-iron back out of my bag, and at that moment, I'm like, I am screwed. Because my arms were so jacked up from climbing this tree. It was like I just did like 100 pull-ups. And my arms, I couldn't feel the club. I'm like trying to get loose, but like now we're behind. The rules official's on me. I'm still away. Like the playing competitors haven't even hit their second shot. And yeah, long story short, make 9. I literally chunked the next shot and yeah, blew the tournament. And I also didn't make the mid-am team, missed the mid-am team by one shot. So yeah, that's my debacle. I think any competitor probably has 1 or 2. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, like, I go like maybe a couple hours without thinking about it now. So it's getting better. But at the end of the day, like might sound weird. Like I'm not grateful for that, but I think I learned a lot from that. And, yeah, I wish I would have closed it for sure. But at the end of the day, you can't choke if you weren't there in the first place. So played a lot of good golf leading up to that. And yeah.
Well, it's it like when Dylan was here that night and he was talking about just that he loves beating his friends. And you were at the top of that list.
But he hated him first.
Yeah, he did hate him.
Loved
first.
beating him and hated him.
Yeah. But his words were like, when Ryan wins the mid-am or when Ryan does this, and I think we all see that. Like we were talking to, I can't remember what event it was. I said, well, if I'm picking out of all those guys, I'm picking Ryan because like he may not hit it as far as player X or player Y but guess what? Ryan's going to get the ball in the hole more efficiently than than most of the other guys because you have that dog in your game to well, Troy and I experienced it firsthand when you guys destroyed us in the 2-man.
We got the 15 somehow.
That was the 13th hole. They only had 13 birdies for 2 guys.
Yeah, they were 11 under after 13 as a best ball again. Not a scramble, but a best ball. 11 under after 13.
Yeah, fun.
How did we get to 15 even on that?
I think we birdied 2 holes.
No, goodness.
But yeah, I think, that's the beautiful part about golf because, like, you have such a collapse like that. And then I remember, it wasn't at the team champs, I won't lie, like that lingered for a while. But, come the next year, it's like, okay, like I get another shot at the Mid-Am, right? And that year, 2023, I lost in a playoff to Barrett Jarash, great player, unbelievable player. That one didn't sting as bad because, like, he made birdie on the playoff hole, which is awesome. But, just being there again, I'm like, okay, like, I think that validated me. Like, it wasn't a one-off that I was leading, in 2022. So, and then, again, this year, finished third. And I feel like I'm right there, but I feel like there's another gear that I can tap into to feel like, hey, like, this can happen.
That puts you on a team, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thanks for making, Ryan relive all of that.
Yep.
Idea.
That's good.
Well, I remember seeing you a couple of days after at the team champ, and I don't know if you're aware, but my perception would be when you drive through the gates of a golf course, that you are impervious to negativity about your golf game. Do you know that about you? So the way we're talking right now, or off the golf course, you would talk really open and honest about this. But when I ask you, when I enter the golf course and I'll say, how's the game? Great. Never been better. It's always great. And it is really that way. And I was like, she's really confident. That's really great. And even after that event, when I saw you, it was a couple of days after that. And how do you approach someone, right? But you actually initiated the conversation almost in that way, like that you were impervious to how. Now, inside it was different.
Story.
But the golf course, when you get there, like that, that's what I think I've taken from you is I'll come home and I'll say, I saw Ryan today and his golf game is always the best. He's always talking that like his game is the best. And usually when I, like the gates are different for me or maybe other people. When I walk in the gates, like everything falls apart. Like I can't even get my shoes on sometimes because I know what's coming. For you, it's the opposite. Would that be accurate? Honestly,
it's great that it comes off that way, but I think my mind probably works just like your guys' mind. I always think there's a crack that's going to turn into a gaping hole in my game. Like, honestly, I think I probably have a safety net of in competition. I know what shot I can hit, and I'm not going to hit anything else but that shot. And I think that comes through what I kind of call like a leveled practice, where like, if I'm doing something in my game, it needs to start when I'm practicing by myself on the golf course, right? And then, okay, if that works, then can I do it at men's league or Saturday with the guys? If that works, okay, can I do it like in a death match with me against Batzel and a couple of our other buddies, our season series, right? Because that's kind of the next level. And then, okay, great, can I do it at the Vic Day to start the year? Mm-hmm. Can I do that on 1 and 3 when there's OB right? Can I do that? If not, then I know that, and I know kind of what level it feels comfortable with and how I can kind of notch that up. And whether this is good, bad, or indifferent, but at the end of the day, especially when I get to what I call a major, like a mid-am or something, I'm not going to hit a shot unless I know exactly where it's going. And that sometimes is a 3-iron hard draw, but I know it's going to be a 3-iron hard draw. And I know that my chipping and putting is just as good as any of them. So I think that's where I might have more resilience. But day to day, I'm always trying to work like on those cracks. And yeah, I'm just like anyone. Like I might lose it tomorrow. I don't know.
So do you?
Oh, sorry. So talking about driving through the gates there, and if I'm never gonna hit a shot, I get to the gates, do a U-turn. And head home. Well, maybe tomorrow I get through.
Do that. You hit a lot of shots that you're not necessarily practicing. You're not anticipating that's going to happen.
Yeah. No one ever could have guessed that someone would have to hit that shot. Like, how would you ever practice that shot?
So do you if you are working on a shot, how often do you introduce a new shot? And do you intentionally play that shot in a kind of leveled kind of way to see if it can hold up against it?
Yes. So your second question, yes. And I think that's one of the nice things about playing at Desert Blume is because for me anyways, I hate the left shot. Like if I hit my driver left, it drives me absolutely insane. And a lot of the trouble at Desert Blume is left off the tee. So like even on three, and usually I'd say 80% of the time, something that I'm trying to get to the next level, as I say, is always a driver shot, right? It's that and usually like knockdown irons essentially is starting them online. But at Desert Blume, hitting driver, aiming it up the middle of three, for example, knowing you can hit it 150 yards right, is one of those next levels. So yes, like same on 7. As appealing as 4T looks off a 7.
I heard somebody never goes there.
Yeah,
I heard you may even commented on it on Instagram.
Yeah. But honestly, that's where, and I give kudos to Batzel about this too, and Mike Volk to some extent for sure, but definitely start with Dill, is he's not okay just being the best golfer in Medicine Hat, right? And I think even going back to our junior days, we weren't okay just winning a Red Cliff Club championship, right? And you know, you can hit those safety shots, you can hit those bailouts and compete at a local level, but it's like if we want to get to wherever we want to get to, then it needs to be better because, you know, we don't like being big fish in small ponds. Like we want to go into the ocean and see if we can play. And you know, Dylan saw that firsthand when he started playing at Alberta PGA events, like playing with guys with like Heffernan and Fleming at the time and Stiles and, you know, Mitch Fox now. Like those guys don't bail out. They hit golf shots and they don't have any regard to par, just like I saw on the mini tours. And when I play with good mid-ams, I see similar things too. Like they have command of their golf ball, and to some extent they know where it's going. So like, you know, that's where I of my levels, casual golf doesn't exist in those levels because I don't like I can't do it. Mm-hmm. I can't do casual golf. Client golf, as me and Dylan calls it. Like it's just I just can't do it.
Well, I guess we're not getting any invites.
Yeah.
I have 2 serious questions for you. And take as much time. I don't want to stack them together, but we're going to draw some family things in for you if we can. So your wife's been with you for a good chunk of your competitive career, both am and professional and back to am. What would she say? And I thought about actually calling Sarah and saying, I'm going to ask you this question, and then we're going to do like the dating game, you know, or the newlywed game, where we're going to get, and then say, well, you're lying, Ryan. Yeah. But I'll call her after to verify.
Okay.
What would you say? What would she say about you as someone who shared this essentially this parallel life of competitive golf? What would she say about you having lived this competitive? Would she say something similar to what you've talked about, watching how you've changed or morphed, or what would she say about you in this whole competitive golf life you've lived?
I think she would probably acknowledge my resilience-ness, especially in that professional era, because she saw the worst, like literally the worst of me, right? Like at what I would call like the basement. And, you know, I understand, you know, that's not that bad compared to, you know, a lot of the world, but for me it was a super dark time. And so I think she would be probably proud of kind of how I've been able to get out of that and have that pilot light go back on. But she would probably say I'm a complete head case when it comes to golf. Yeah. Like there's no filter there. Like you might see me calm and cool and collected at the course, but like she knows, like she has a crazy sense of like, if there's something up, like if I didn't play good or like, you know, if there's something off with my golf game, she knows. Probably, yeah, more than anything.
You don't hide it very well.
I try, but it doesn't help. Like she knows.
Troy actually alluded to this in an earlier episode where Krista had to make some rules about Troy coming home from the golf course.
Yeah. When the summer we were married and I was playing lots of golf and I was in my mind I was a really competitive amateur, but I was, you know, attempting to play in the Alberta Amateur and playing lots and I was miserable. Like I was never happy and I would come home from golf at about 11 o'clock after playing and like I was just a miserable guy. And she finally said, like, I'm okay if you golf every day, but if you come home one more day and you carry that golf game with you, you have to cancel your membership. And that was a pretty serious statement in the first year of marriage, first month of marriage. And
Drew a line in the sand.
that was it. And I'm still golfing today, luckily. And I really work hard not to. I'm sure, like, there's a sense, but you would say for Sarah, she still knows.
Oh, 100%.
Always, yeah.
Yep. I remember because we bought a camper a couple of years ago because, you know, if I'm going to go play in these amateur events everywhere, like, she might as well come with. Not so much this year, just with having Mav, but ideally next few years, you know, bring him with. And I remember leaving from Highwood and literally just bawling when I got back to the campsite, like, just sobbing. And, like, I think having a spouse that's understands that as much as she could, like, I think that's pretty special to have. Not like, what the heck's wrong? Like,
Yeah. So this was my final question. You guys might have a lot more. So let's pretend we're like 15 or 20 years down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And you're probably closer to what our ages are about now. And you're listening, and Maverick is listening to this as a 15 or a 20-year-old person. What are you hoping he might hear from this, and what he might learn about his dad from this episode?
Great question. I would like to hope that he hears the honesty in it, and not being afraid of those, you know, demons in the closet. Because I think golf can expose that, and it's easy to shove those down and put those away and not talk about them. And I hope he doesn't ever have to climb a pine tree, evergreen tree. But
Unless he's an arborist. Then...
Yeah, correct. He's going to be an athlete though. But I would just like to hope he senses some peace in kind of where I'm at, and he can hear and feel the love that I have for the game of golf, and it doesn't have to be for paychecks. I love golf more now than I ever have. But it is that competitive aspect that does appeal to me, and I just hope when he's 15 that he has something that he is that attached to, whether it's golf or whatever else. I hope it's golf, but it doesn't have to be, and I just hope that he has something that he wakes up and just can't wait to go do at that age.
How'd you get into golf?
My dad, basically. Kind of a cool story, and it's kind of the same progression I even use now. Is like, when I started playing, we would do par 3 or whatever, but probably 9 years old, 10 years old, we'd start to go to Redcliffe. And he would just start me at the 150s because there's no junior tees at the time. So every hole, 150s except for the par 3s, until I could beat him. So, and my dad, you know, he's probably, at the time, I don't know what he would be, probably 12, 13 handicap, like decent, not bad. And whenever I would beat him, we'd move back 25 yards, right? I'd go to 175s next round, and then 200s, and then eventually you get to the red tees at Redcliffe, and then playing with juniors. And then I think it's really cool, like, how golf always presents like the next level for you if you want it. Like, I literally remember the day, like, our Tuesday junior leagues at Redcliffe, the first day I got to play the whites with the guys, with the boys. And they're all older than me, but it's like this coming of like graduation that you get to play the whites, right? And I think even to this day, it's like that progression. There's something appealing to it that everyone chases, no matter your skill set. And I know I chase it. It's literally runs around in my brain all day long. Like, I always think about, you know, what can we do? What can I do to get better? And I think that doesn't matter if you're a plus handicap, 10 handicap, 20 handicap. I think once you're bit by the bug and you love the game, that's always kind of there. And I don't think there's another sport like that.
Yeah, you don't. I think you see somebody in the mall practicing there.
Exactly.
Follow through, right?
I was. This was like last week. I was at Desert Blume. We got that range machine now, and so I get my bucket of balls or whatever. I'm just quickly gonna hit a large bucket.
I thought you were gonna say you swiped your card. You're out for the month.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, reload me. Yeah, and so the second in the large bucket, like, it gets pretty full, right? So I get my bucket, and I'm like, one ball kind of falls out, goes under the range machine, right? And so I'm like, whatever. Grab my bag, and I'm like halfway to the range. I'm like, that ball might be the one. that might be. So I literally have walked back, grab the ball, because it could be, right? And I think, I don't know, I was just reflecting on that the other day, and I'm like, that's so bizarre.
We have had a common question for all of our guests, and we'll kind of put it together. We've talked about the perfect golf day for all of us, so we've shared that a few times, and maybe it's going to keep morphing as well. But when you think about the perfect golf experience that you can dream about in the next 2 to 4 years, that's realistic.
Sure.
What would be the ultimate golf experience in the next couple of years?
How much detail?
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Okay. Wake up, probably ideally in my camper, as much as I don't like camping. But Sarah's there, Mav's there, final round of the mid-am, and I wake up, put both feet on the ground, no back spasms, because that's first kind of checkpoint. Like, no, but how's the back? Coffee. I always walk, kind of wake up, get out, fresh air, kind of do an assessment of where the body's at for the day. Hopefully nothing crazy, no major aches and pains after sleeping on a subpar mattress camping, and tied for the lead for the mid-am. And I go to the course. I'm able to keep down my, bacon and egg or hash brown water from A&W, because sometimes it doesn't happen. And I have a tough time eating tournament days, but side note. And get to the course, warm up, body feels good. The strike's there on the range right away, like the contact's there. I know the ball's kind of starting where it's going. It's turning over. There's no weird shots. The pitching feels good. The demons aren't there on the pitch shots. Contact feels good. Putter's starting where it goes. I'm not shoving my left to righters, because I always shove left to righters. Starting on line, and I get to the tee, and my tee shot goes exactly where I'm looking, and I probably make a 4-footer on the first hole, and I'm in command of my golf ball the entire round, and I shoot 4 or 5 under and win. That's the perfect day. And I grab that trophy and I scream, and everyone on the lot thinks, "What the heck is wrong with that guy?" And I know only very few people would know what that's.
There'll be another 60 people that know now.
Yeah, that's right.
They'll be cheering with you.
Yeah.
So it depends how big your socials are, and if Bill Ewell wants to fan this out to all of the communication networks.
Yeah,
That's right.
Yeah.
Global.
Yeah.
So yeah, probably a different answer, but that's where my mind goes immediately. So
the question I always like to ask is, what's your favorite golf shot? Like, what's the one, like, you hit that perfect drive or
just a tight right to left draw. Yeah, that's it. Now, if you're thinking that's a shot, my favorite place in golf or favorite thing to do would just be making like a 6-foot putt for par. Like, there's a joke among my friend group, like my tombstone's gonna say like par in a card, because we play the card game, and like making par putts, I think there's so much momentum that goes with it, and I think it's different than making birdie putts, and I just love making par putts for whatever reason.
the 6-foot pars in our group is usually a gimme.
Yeah, the guy for that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, actually, we've already talked about how deflating the 6-foot bogey lip out feels. That's a different feeling.
It's tough to come back from. Same with hitting it left on 7 at Desert Blume. Kind of wrecks your day. But
Yeah, like I played Land O'Lakes last week, and like I built my whole game to not miss left. And I got the left misses at Land O'Lakes. No, it's good. No, there's a lot of houses. Yeah. There was a guy in the backyard. I just pretended. Just kept walking.
I was thinking of that course. There's a lot of trouble left.
Yeah. 4 out of bounds. Yeah.
Where would Desert Blume rank in your courses that you'd play, maybe in Alberta?
In Alberta, it'd be top 3 or 4 for sure, if not the top. I mean, it's right up there. And it's tough to kind of rank courses when you get like to the top, because it depends on the environment. But I think we're incredibly lucky in Medicine Hat to have not only Desert Blume, but Country Club Connaught. And I have obviously a soft spot for Redcliffe too. I think there's a lot of good holes out at Redcliffe. Course is always in good shape out there. But I think like Desert Blume is legitimately, I would say national championship golf course. And I don't think there's many of them in Alberta actually, especially when it comes to like hosting a national event. You need a practice area, right? You don't want to, like, I went to the Canadian Mid-Am this year and they had 6 range stalls for 160 man field. But anyways, but yeah, like it's set up good enough for any national tournament. Not professionally, but like the Alberta Open this year was so great, and there was nothing but awesome reviews from the guys, and they loved it. And so yeah, I think we're super fortunate to have that track.
Yeah, like even today, like September 29th. I don't know what the stimp was today, but
And no leaves.
And you can keep playing because you can find your golf ball. The way the greens still roll this time of year is, it's not normal.
Yeah, and not to mention just like being able to get out there when it's nice in April too, right? And we have the longest golf season in Alberta by far, probably an extra 2 months, on 1 month on each end of the season compared to Calgary and north of Calgary. So,
And how about for you the winter? Like you talked about your back, you talked about being stronger to climb trees.
that's right. Yeah.
What's as you creep up in the years like the old people here? How do you keep healthy? How do you stay strong?
I think this winter is kind of the first winter where I just went through a summer of things not being as good as I would like them to be in terms of my golf game. And usually after Labor Day, I don't play at all. Like I might play once or twice, and I don't play sim. Like I might play with the guys once in the wintertime. The clubs go in the basement. Like they are down there until the courses open up. But this winter I do want to be a little bit more active because I think just with the time compression that I had this year, I can't get going and get kind of that strike. I always call it the strike, like the contact of the ball as quickly as I wanted to this year. I felt like I kind of meshed into kind of mid-May, early June until I'm like, okay, every time I go to the course, I know what I got. And I would like that to be a lot earlier in the year for obvious reasons so that I can get into playing more instead of feeling like I need to practice. So this winter, definitely going to try to maybe change a few things, just setup wise and a little bit of ball position, and also just swing more, both right and left-handed, just to balance the body out a little bit. And the only nagging thing is just my lower back. It's been really good the last 2 or 3 years. I've been working with Barassa a lot on that and just keeping on that essentially. So yeah, hopefully just swing it more, whether that's sim golf or whatever. Every time I'm off the Lethbridge, going hitting balls with Spriddle, or just being more proactive and not letting the bag just sit in the basement, right?
So you had mentioned before, like you went away from using him as your swing coach and you switched your grip and this and that. Did you go back to what you had before, or?
I've never been able to get totally back to my junior golf swing. I think my body's just so different than it was. I have swings from 2008, 9, 10, 11, and I'm like, holy smokes. Like, just now I look back, I'm like, that was so good. And I wish I would have never touched that. Like, I wish I didn't have those videos actually. But yeah, so I see Dean a couple times a year probably. He's the only guy that I know that I actually trust to put his eyes on my golf swing, as weird as that sounds. He also has a TrackMan, which I like looking at, just the numbers on it. And he doesn't really coach me, more just like I'll tell him, hey, this is what I'm working on. Is this actually what's going on? What are the numbers telling you? Is there anything glaring that you think I need to be doing more or less of? So I usually see him early springtime just as a tune-up, and then, emergency only kind of in the summertime. So, yeah. Anything else?
No, this has been fun and enlightening
and maybe a two-parter. You've given us lots of hard lessons about what it's like to really love the game and go after it. And there's some causal effects to that, right? And also on the other side, like you would never know that by watching you talk about golf. Like for someone who has had some of those experiences, you just love it.
Yeah.
And I think like you alluded to, you don't get to have those experiences unless you're good enough to put yourself there, right? Like, I'm never going to experience that.
But you could.
No, because I can't be in that spot.
But I wish because I've listened to your guys' podcast and I know you guys enough to know how much you guys love golf. It's just at a different angle.
Yeah.
And I wish I was more like that. Like I remember being in San Antonio. They had the senior tour event there every year, the Valero there every year. Like I went once to the Valero Texas Open just because Anthony Kim was playing, and I just wanted to see him, and then I left. Like I really didn't care. I was like, I want to go practice. I had, for whatever reason, and part of me wishes I would love, like even a guy's trip to wherever, Chambers Bay or wherever. I'm like, probably wouldn't go. Like as bad as that is, but it's just different, and I wish I wasn't so far on that end of the spectrum. But can you have it both ways? I'm not sure. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm envious of you guys though. Like when I see how much you guys love golf and you truly love the game. Whereas I think I more love golf being a destination for my competitiveness. Like, it's basically a vehicle that I can hop into and compete. Right. That gets gets that pilot light.
Well, hopefully time doesn't beat you.
Yeah, and you just be careful about the envy of losing two sleeves of golf balls on the front nine and saying like I'm walking off. Like that's nothing to be envious about. But we certainly do envy someone who has such precision and such dedication to being so good at something. That's fun to listen to.
Well, Dylan talked about the emergency pod. The emergency 9. We have an emergency pod. Like when you win.
Yes.
I don't know where the mid-am is next year.
Not sure.
To win, we'll load up the set.
Yeah.
And we'll throw it in the back of the truck and we'll drive it up for an emergency pod.
Well, yes, and we'll put it the thing right in the middle of the table and it'll be celebratory. Yeah.
With the tree branch in there.
Yeah, that's right. Riz played in Highwood for the senior this year. I'm like, yeah, go to that tree and cut it down.
Yeah.
But
Torg was because Torg got a couple bad holes there too. And my 18 may have been one of them.
it's not that tough a hole. That's what drives me nuts. Probably more than anything about it. Especially, it suits my eye really well. Actually, like if I were to build a hole for me, like that's basically it.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
Well, you've let it go.
yeah, totally.
if you were to script it though, when you win, it's going to be that much better though.
Correct.
Because you went through that.
Yeah.
Right. Like.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
It will be.
Yeah, it will be.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.